So I got a question on Discord that I wanted to answer real quick, and the question was about routing, what that means and what are the benefits. There are kind of three main reasons that routing within a project is useful. One is grouping sounds together. One is using effects or processing chains repeatedly. Um, and then there's just economizing computer power. Kind of honorable mention is number 4 is just organization. I'm going to take a look at what routing means in 3 different DAWs: Pro Tools, Audition, and Reaper. I'm going to start with Pro Tools because this is considered kind of an industry standard. So what I have is a couple audio files I've just pulled in. So if I were to create a new project, I would see this window and I would scroll down here and kind of spin down this dialog. And it's going to show you all the different types of tracks that Pro Tools can make. What I'm going to cover are just the tracks that are common across all 3 of the applications I'm going to show you, which are going to be audio track, aux input, and master fader. Master fader is kind of the top of the food chain, and it's as described. It is the fader that controls the entire project. So the next one is obviously audio track, and then what we're going to talk about the most today, which is the aux input. So I've gone ahead and added these tracks to the projects where you have the master fader, 1 aux, and 2 audio channels. When you're talking about routing, you usually see 3 words kind of tossed around: aux, bus, and send. The best way to kind of understand these words, because they all relate to the same thing, is their use and intent. So as I said before, one of the things you can do with an aux is to group sounds together. So that means taking your audio tracks and routing them to 1 aux that you can control at once. So in this case, I have 2 audio tracks here, and what I want to do is I want them to play.
Glue the sheet to the dark blue background. It's easy to tell the depth of a well.
So you can see that the sounds are coming. We're seeing that they're playing on their individual tracks, and we can see that they're playing on the master fader. We want them to go here. And let me just make this stereo.
Glue the sheet to the dark blue background.
So I'm going to go over here into my mix window, and I'm going to select audio 1 and audio 2. So this looks like a lot, and it's really not that bad. So, and this is something you're going to see copied in all the DAWs we're going to see. You have inserts. So inserts are track-based effects. Ascend is something we're going to talk about in a minute. And then you have this in and out section. So before I do anything, I'm going to look at this master aux track, and I'm going to go up here. And so the input is basically the name it's going to be represented by in the project. So it says no input, which means nothing can be sent to it. If I go into the in and out settings here, so I'm going to make a new path, and I'm going to make it a bus. In this case, I'm going to make it stereo, and I'm just going to call it bus 1. Okay, out of this. And now I can look over here and name it. So I'll go down to bus 1 stereo. So now this is ready to receive signals. So I'm going to select audio 1 and audio 2 again. Go down here to bus. And now I'm telling it to send these to bus 1. And then bus 1 over here is ready to receive. So now if I play this audio.
Glue the sheet to the dark blue background. It's easy to tell the depth of a well.
So that's the basics of how you would do this. So I wanted to add a reverb, but I'm just going to put a very simple Valhalla room on here. I'm going to turn the mix down to about 3%. Things start to get wacky after that. And let's play it and listen.
Glue the sheet to the dark blue background.
Cool.
It's easy to tell the
reverb has now been added to the entire group of tracks without having to go through each track and add a reverb to it. So that's pretty nifty, right? And so if I mute the entire group, you'll see it also has an effect. It can turn everything off with one click of a button. So that's kind of the basics of sending audio to a bus. The other use for an aux channel in this kind of application, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, say no input. So now if I play this, we're back to kind of where we were before. The audio isn't playing because it's not going anywhere. So I'll just change this back to the master fader.
Glue the sheet to the dark blue background.
Cool, so no reverb or anything. But I really want to use that reverb, guys, so what do? Now it's time to talk about aux sends, and that's referring to these sections right here. So this is just another way to take a universal effect that you use over and over, like a reverb, and put it on a track. If I go into here, and now I want to add this reverb to the send, check this out. So it's just on the dialogue. Now that it's on there, I actually have to, if I click on it, it's going to bring up this little volume thing. Then I also have to go back and turn on my +1 stereo, so I'm sure that the audio is coming out. So I'm going to crank up the reverb. I'm going to turn this mix all the way up. And this is the main difference between using a reverb directly on a bus and using it as a send, is you want your mix power all the way up. If you're using a reverb that has, like, for example, if I used, I'll just, for the sake of showing you this, East and West Spaces, it uses the words wet and dry. You want wet all the way up and dry all the way down. So dry being the source signal, wet being just the reverb. Cool. So same difference here in Valhalla Room. It doesn't have wet and dry, but it has mix. So with the mix all the way up, same reverb settings, I am now going to play the audio and bring it up on the slider so you can hear the effect.
The birch canoe slid on the smooth planks. Glue the sheet to the dark blue background. It's easy to tell the depth of a well. These days, a chicken leg is a rare dish. Rice is often served in round bowls.
So as you can see, you can really, using this method, control the mixture in a way that doesn't require having to go back into your reverb settings repeatedly. And all of which is economizing your computing power and adding a level of organization to your project. Now, the tricky part is going to be showing you how to do this in Adobe Audition, okay? If you happen to be one of the few people walking through life in a fugue state and you wake up one day and realize you are using Adobe Audition, this is a way that you are going to kind of do the same thing. So the first thing I will say, and I'll just for the sake of showing this, when you open up Audition, you're not going to see the parts of the program that you're going to need to be able to do this. And while I'm here, I really just want to say, please, dear God, go into your autosave settings and make sure, if you're working with Audition, just make sure that you have autosave on and it's recovering data every few minutes. Audition can be very temperamental, and I hear horror story after horror story of people losing their work. So make sure autosave is on. So I have the same audio in here.
Glue the sheet to the dark blue background.
I recommend going up to the top here so you have your editing session, your multi-track session, which I made by creating a new multi-track session. You're going to go up here to the top and say mixer. So otherwise, you're just going to get an effects rack. Just so many cautions with this program. Let me go up to mixer. I am going to undock this panel and drag it to just the left. And so this is kind of going to get it to where it resembles something like what I was just doing over in Pro Tools. So let me just kind of delete some tracks I'm not using. I can't! Okay, let me figure out how I to... Look at this. I have to Google how to delete a track. Oh, so mix is likened to the master track we saw over in Pro Tools, and bus A is the same as bus 1, and track 1 is the same as track 1. So it's basically the same thing. With the exception I have to drag in my footsteps from Soundly. Let's see. Sure, whatever. Cool. So just for my own sake and sanity, I'm going to drag my my mix up to the top. And this is the... No, I'm not. So anyway, I have my 2 tracks and my bus. And so in order to route these tracks like I did over in Pro Tools, and I would come over to this mix window. Here's where things get a little wacky. When you look at this, it kind of looks a little familiar, right? So you have your inserts, you have your sends, which let me just turn these to none for now. And then up here, you have your inputs, you have your outputs. And so similar to how we did it in Pro Tools, I'm going to go to the outputs first and go down to bus A, and like before,
The birch canoe slipped.
Oops, I have to adjust my reverb settings to reflect this being on a bus, so controlling the mixture directly on the track, so I'll just think that's something like 3%.
On the smooth planks. Glue the sheet to the dark blue background.
So as you can see, it's working similar to how we had it working over in Pro Tools. In order to use a send, however, I'm gonna just have these go to my main mix output. And I am going to go down to this drop down. So that's kind of the first main difference between this and Pro Tools. Not that I say first, but there are many differences. But just in looking at these tool sets in particular, is that natively in Pro Tools and even Reaper, there are multiple send slots and you don't have this drop down situation. So like in Pro Tools, like when I was using the reverb on an aux send, that is now working over here. I'm going to turn the mix all the way back up because now I'm controlling the mixture on the send.
It's easy to tell the depth of a well. These days, a chicken leg is a rare dish.
So that's how you would set up an aux send over here. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same stuffs in Reaper. The only thing I've done here is I've added the footsteps and vocal tracks and an aux. Nothing else. So the first thing I'm going to show you is something really cool about Reaper, which is that when you add a track, and there's a few ways to do that, you can right click, insert new track. So notice there's no real, I remember Pro Tools, you kind of got that nifty drop down about the kind of tracks you want to insert. And here you just say insert new track. You can hit Control T, or you can just double click, like literally double click. And that's what kind of makes Reaper, this is the start of the awesomeness about Reaper and how just easy and fast it is to work. I'll just put it right there. I'm going to call it bus just to kind of get the point across. I'm going to make a bus. You take your tracks, select them, and you click drag them into the bus. This is so cool because you also just kind of made this really compact collapsible thing that is really great for organizational purposes. And if you wanted to undo that, you hit this little folder icon, which will turn into an X. It'll undo it. I'm going to keep them in there. And that's it. It's just so easy. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to then I'll steal this Valhalla room. I'm going to mute this for now. Double click on it. Set this to about 3. And play it.
Rice is often served in round bowls.
So cool. That's literally how you make a bus in Reaper. Now, if you want to do the aux send thing, and I'm just going to put this, I'm going to put the aux, just to save some time, onto this bus. So I have my Valhalla room, in this instance, set with the mix all the way up on this aux channel. And so I'm going to go into my bus, go down to the sends and hardware outputs, and go down here to add new send, aux 1. Just a very quick and easy interface and way to work. So hopefully now you have a better idea of what routing means and the ways it can benefit your project and how to do it in a few different DAWs.